welcome to This Week in Big Sky Football presented by Jimmy John's. I'm your host, Carl Hunt, and today on our show, we will have Weber State head coach Jay Hill, Northern Colorado cornerback Michael Walker, and Stats Craig Haley. Let's take a look back at some highlights from this past weekend. Montana State defeated Southern Utah 49-7 in the Root Sports Game of the Week. Eastern Washington clipped Northern Arizona 66-38 with 706 yards of total offense. Northern Colorado earned a 26-20 win at Idaho State with the help of its defense forcing 4 turnovers. Idaho defeated Cal Poly at home 21-9. Montana recorded a 38-23 win after backup quarterback Cameron Humphrey threw for 335 yards and 4 touchdowns. Weber State registered a 36-17 win at Sacramento State to become the lone undefeated team left in league play. The Big Sky has a total of 4 teams ranked this week in the Stats FCS and AFCA FCS coaches' top 25 polls. Weber State leads the way at number 3, followed by Montana at number 5 and 6, Sacramento State at number 8, and Montana State at number 12 and 14. UC Davis is receiving votes in the Stats FCS poll. The Root Sports Offensive Player of the Week honor went to Eastern Washington quarterback Eric Berrier. Northern Colorado cornerback Michael Walker earned Root Sports Defensive Player of the Week accolades, while the Eagles kicker Seth Harrison was named the Root Sports Special Teams honoree. Remember, Root Sports is the official television partner of the Big Sky Conference. When we return, Weber State head coach Jay Hill will join us on the show. Stay tuned to This Week in Big Sky Football.
Big Sky men's and women's basketball championships are headed to Boise. Buy your tickets now for a fun-filled week with basketball for all to enjoy. Purchase your tickets today by visiting BigSkyInBoise.com. That's BigSkyInBoise.com.
At Jimmy John's, we want your sandwich to arrive freaky fast, so it's freaky fresh. So we only deliver within 5 minutes of our stores, and not farther. Click to order at jimmyjohns.com. 5 minutes is not a guaranteed delivery time. Actual delivery times will vary.
We would like to welcome Weber State's Jay Hill to our show today. Welcome, Coach. It's always great to have you on our show.
No problem. Love being with you guys.
Weber State is coming off a win at Sacramento State. With a crazy league like the Big Sky, talk about what teams have to do to pull off road wins in conference play.
Well, there's lots to overcome, right? I mean, travel in the Big Sky is not necessarily as easy as other places. You're traveling sometimes to smaller towns. Sometimes you're traveling by bus, long distances. Yeah, I mean, you got to win on the road if you're going to win the championship here, and you're going to have to play some good teams on the road and pull off some crazy ones.
It seems like every time you turn around, you're going up against a top 25 opponent in the Big Sky. Can you talk about the talent this league has?
Well, the league is obviously very balanced right now. There's 5 or 6 big-time teams at the top, and quite frankly, the ones in the middle and in the bottom you can get you to if you're not ready to go. So you better be ready to play every week. There's just too much talent. There's too much parity right now.
Now, this week, Weber State entered its 30th straight week in the top 25. Can you describe how a stat like that emphasizes the success your program has had over the last few years?
Well, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. It's something we've been trying to build. It's a mentality. It's a purpose. We have been good, but it's a tribute to the players. The assistant coaches have done a phenomenal job, but we've got good players that care. They want to win. They want to be good, and obviously that stat bears it out. 30 straight weeks in the top 25 is a pretty cool deal.
And your defense is one of the best in the FCS. What's been the key for the Wildcats this season?
Well, I think we got the best defensive line in the FCS football, in my opinion. Jonah Williams, Adam Rodriguez were first-team all-conference guys last year. You add Jared Chief to the mix this year, who I think is playing like the best D-tackle in the league, and those guys are hard to handle. The good thing about them is they've helped us break in a young secondary crew where we've had a little growing pains with them. Now those guys are starting to play at a high level, but while we were going through some of those growing pains, the D-line just played outstanding and did their job and backed those guys and got pressure on quarterbacks. And now we're starting to hit stride where those guys played outstanding last week against Sac State, and a lot of big-time things happened in that game.
Josh Davis seems to have run straight from his freshman year to his sophomore year without even slowing down. How has his versatile play improved since last season?
Well, Josh Davis is one of the best, if not the best, offensive player in the league, in my opinion. And he can run it. He can catch it. He blocks. If you put him in pass protection, he's not the biggest guy, but he'll put his face on you and he'll strike. he's a football player. We knew it coming out. He's the all-time leader in all-purpose yards in the state of Utah for a single year, and he's continued to prove that from high school all the way on to his college career. And I couldn't be happier with where he's at. We got other backs who are sharing the load, which is helping us keep him healthy right now. And I think he's only going to get stronger and stronger as the year goes on.
Your stadium received an upgrade recently. Talk about how cool the view from your office is now.
Well, our administration did an unbelievable job with this facility. It's a new weight room. It's a new equipment room, a new locker room for the players, all new meeting spaces. It's something we can recruit to, but more importantly, it's up to our ability to teach. It's up to our ability to prepare players both physically and mentally. And the view from the office is pretty sweet. I love it.
Now, we've all seen the photos from your new locker room. How does an improvement like that help you guys with recruiting?
It does. Players will go in there and see that it's a big-time place. And I've had multiple NFL scouts now tell me that our locker room looks better than theirs. And when you do a facility new and the right way, which our administration did a great job of backing us on what we needed to get done, then you can pull off something cool like that. And obviously the players love it, and the future prospects that we're looking at will love it as well.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us on our show today, Coach, and good luck in your game versus North Dakota on Saturday.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be back shortly with our next segment of This Week in Big Sky Football.
My Place Hotels is proud to be the official hotel of the Big Sky Conference. Need a hotel for work or just a night away? With over 50 hotels open and more on the way, we want to be your home away from home. Let My Place be your place. Enroll in our new loyalty program and stay rewarded.
Next up on This Week in Big Sky Football is Northern Colorado cornerback Michael Walker. Michael, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Yes, sir.
You and your teammates picked up a win at Idaho State this past weekend. Is there a different mindset you go through for road games compared to home games?
We just keep doing the same thing each week. Ain't nothing changed. We just trying to get better and better each week. And the bye week helped out. We got a lot of recovery in, and we just came in ready to play.
Now, you were recently named the Big Sky Root Sports Defensive Player of the Week for the second time this season. Take us back through the game and tell us about both of your interceptions.
I had got the go call from my safety, and he told me to go, and that's what happened. So you can really just thank the safety for that.
How has being a student athlete helped your time management skills?
It just so like coming from high school to college, it just like makes you grow up faster, knowing that you have to do things on your own. You don't like really have mommy and daddy, so you just gotta grow up faster.
Now, you're from Oakland, California. How did you end up at Northern Colorado?
Because of football, really. I had a couple of offers back in Cali, but I got took back. And then next thing you know, I got a phone call from Northern Colorado, and I just went with it.
And you played defensive back and wide receiver in high school. Have you always liked playing on defense more?
Yeah, I'd rather do the hitting than get hit.
Is that what you like most about playing defense?
Yes, sir.
Now, your bio says that you played high school basketball. Do you still get an opportunity to play in your downtime?
Right now, I haven't really played basketball in a long time. I think the last time I played was in the summer. So that was kind of like my time just to get some cardio in.
Nice. So what's your favorite thing about playing football?
My favorite thing about playing football?
Yes, sir.
I just really like competing. It's just being out there on the island, just like letting your presence known. That's right there. That's a good feeling.
All right, that's Northern Colorado cornerback Michael Walker. Thanks for joining us on the show, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Pluto TV is your one-stop shop for Big Sky action. The leading free internet television service in America will stream live sporting events including up to 700 football, men's and women's basketball, volleyball, and selected soccer, softball, and track and field events. Simply go to Pluto TV to find games from several different sports. Pluto TV is your one-stop shop for all Big Sky action.
It's time for the one and only Craig Haley from Stats to join us on our show. How are you doing this week, Craig?
I'm doing well. What a weekend last weekend and games, and I'm looking forward to Big Sky action this week.
Weber State, the lone team at the top of the Big Sky. Did the Wildcats show you anything you hadn't seen before in their game at Sacramento State last week?
What a game they had. I mean, you have to love the overall dominance against, a high-level opponent like Sac State. I mean, Weber's played good competition, obviously, but this may have been their best offensive balance of the season. I mean, with Josh Davis on this tear, it's easy to do that. I mean, that the run sets up the pass, and the Wildcats can control game clock. I mean, we've always known about the defense and the special teams, with Coach Hill's program. I just think they're so well-rounded at this point.
Montana and Sacramento State are the two Big Sky teams with one loss in league play. It's too early to tell how the next 3 weeks will play out, but what do the Grizz and Hornets need to do to keep them as heavy favorites for the playoffs?
They both have, a high strength of schedule, Carl. I mean, so one win in their last three would probably be enough to get them into the playoffs. I mean, the key is just to keep the focus on the Big Sky title race. I mean, at least trying to get a share of it. I mean, especially because, one of Montana's games coming up is with Weber. So I don't think you look at this as a 3-game, ending run. I think you really go one week at a time, and then you see where it all falls in the end. I mean, that's what coaches want their players to do, and I think in this situation, that's how you go about winning a title.
Eastern Washington posted its second 700-yard total offensive performance this season. Was it about the Eagles? What was it about the Eagles that gave them the ability to spread the ball so well?
Yeah, it's almost games like that last week. You kind of wish they were still in the playoff picture. I mean, they're just so high octane, and they've been playing this style for a long time. They're just one of the best offenses in the FCS. I mean, every year they have great talent in the skills position. Their style of play is going to attract, dual threat quarterbacks and recruiting. I mean, obviously, Coach Best has made them more run-oriented than they were under Bo Baldwin, but, that's even better. Makes defenses have to prepare for both of that. So their offense is just so much fun.
Now, we've talked a lot about offense this season, but let's talk a little bit about defense. Who are some of the stars on defense that have shined this season?
I tell you what, when I loved how the Big Sky 2 years ago went with Taryn Johnson of Weber State as its defensive player of the year. I mean, a cornerback. I mean, so many players of the year in the nation are so often from the front seven of a defense, because linemen are going to get their sacks and tackles for loss, and linebackers are going to, really have their tackle totals. I mean, that said, I do think the front seven probably had the leaders here. I mean, Bryce Stirk, obviously, of Montana State, started so well. George Obina's had a great year at Sac State. I mean, you go back to Weber, you got Jonah Williams. I mean, what a defense they have. I mean, they're the kind of game changers up front that command double teams and really, wreak havoc with opponents. I mean, and then, I don't want to forget, Dante Olson, the great linebacker at Montana. I mean, he's just a showstopper with what he does. So I do think the player of the year in the Big Sky probably comes from one of those guys.
The Missouri Valley invaded the Big Sky territory this week as they have 3 teams in the top 5 now, with Northern Iowa making a splash at number 5. How would you dissect the Missouri Valley with 3 weeks to go?
Well, you have to think that North Dakota State will finish off an unbeaten regular season. I mean, they're home the next 2 weeks. Maybe their final game on the road at Southern Illinois will be a challenge. But, then you have South Dakota State and Northern Iowa. I mean, they still have to play each other, so one of them is guaranteed a league loss. So that bodes well for North Dakota State. I mean, I just think, the Big Sky is really solid for 4 playoff bids, and I think they have the best chance of any conference to have 5. A great conference. I mean, the Big Sky and Missouri Valley have really, risen to the occasion the last 2 years.
2 teams dropped out of the top 25, while Furman and Princeton cracked the top 10. How would you assess the losses by top 25 teams this past week? And did any of them come as a shock to you?
Well, you had Kennesaw State, was number 5, and they lost to Monmouth in the Big South. I mean, it wasn't a shock, but the way they lost was a shock because Kennesaw was losing by 38 points at one point in that game, and that's pretty much the kind of dominance they've done to their conference opponents in recent years. So they were on the other side of it. I mean, other than that, it was a kind of a typical week because of the way conference play goes, where just teams get knocked off all the time. I mean, you mentioned Princeton; they're playing Dartmouth this week in a battle of unbeaten teams. They're playing at Yankee Stadium, and obviously they're celebrating the 150th anniversary of Princeton playing in the first game against Rutgers. So that game really stands out. But it's just crazy from week to week how these teams knock each other off in conference play.
With the Division I Football Championship Committee set to release their top 10 rankings on Wednesday, we won't put you on the spot for the full 10, but what do you think the top 5 will be as you see it right now?
I'd have to think 1 through 4 is pretty solid. I think North Dakota State's 1, James Madison would be 2, I'd go Weber 3, and South Dakota State 4. 5 is kind of up in the air. I'd go Sacramento State. I mean, they hold that head-to-head, over Montana, head-to-head win, and you have Central Arkansas and Northern Iowa. But I'll go Sacramento State. I just think it's a solid group of teams up top.
All right, that's Craig Haley of Stats. Thank you, Craig, for joining us, and as always, have a great day.
Thank you, Carl. Enjoy all the games this week.
Big Sky fans, make sure you download the Pluto TV app on your smartphone, tablet, or TV and check out our new channel lineup in the 500s. Sacramento State at Northern Arizona, North Dakota at Weber State, Eastern Washington at Idaho State, and UC Davis at Portland State can all be watched on Pluto TV this week. Montana State at Northern Colorado is the 11 sports game of the week and can also be viewed on Pluto TV. The game is scheduled for a 12 p.m. kickoff in Greeley, Colorado. The Root Sports Game of the Week features Idaho at Montana. Kickoff is scheduled for 1 p.m. Mountain Time at Washington Grizzly Stadium. Thanks again to Weber State head coach Jay Hill, Northern Colorado cornerback Michael Walker, and Stats Craig Haley. Enjoy this week in Big Sky football.